I'm not Lawrence Fishburne, and I was not in a commercial, and I'm not that other black guy who's in that commercial, or I'm not the black guy who's in this other commercial.
When he was sending me Django, he actually didn't want to tell me that I wasn't going to be Django.
If your ego is not too precious.
Samuel L. Jackson is 76 years old and has had enough. The phony little games of Hollywood are officially over for him. He has revealed 5 actors that he absolutely detests, following decades of enduring murky politics behind the scenes, fake handshakes, and backstabbing co-stars.
Can't stand.
I can conjugate, and a lot of people can. So I don't need you to write black vernacular for me. I can say what you want said, but you need to say it this way.
Fans were always aware that something was wrong. The stiff steps, the smooth side remarks, the shade that was always there. The gloves are off this time, though. Samuel is no longer merely making insinuations. He is setting bridges on fire. And
on this one,
I grew up in the segregated South. When folks start talking about, how you feel about it, heard it all my life. Okay, now what? Do you think he has a right to, he's a writer, he has a right to write anything he wants?
Wait for the names to be called. This is going to choke Hollywood. Let's correct the record. Samuel L. Jackson is not your average celebrity. He is among the most powerful individuals the sector has ever encountered. He has been in the game for more than 50 years, and his films have made over $27 billion globally. He still won't bow down to anyone, though. He is able to quickly spot Hollywood fakery thanks to his keen voice and no-nonsense eyes. He will remain in the large home. He's a slaver, Steve, and he's tired of being silent at this point in his life. Forget about the purple lightsaber moments and Marvel checks. We're discussing the Samuel L. Jackson that Hollywood would prefer you not to see. The person who broke the rules, blazed his own trail, and refused to be influenced by the industry. Do you believe you know Sam? Rethink your thought. Steven Spielberg was rejected by this man. Twice, actually. To meet his ideas, he forced George Lucas to rework Star Wars. In response to Marvel's attempt to undercut him, he bluntly stated, "Double the paycheck or Nick Fury was gone." Let's now discuss his list, though. His Can't Stand Club was made up of 5 actors, and Spike Lee was at the top of that list. Yes, you heard correctly. Spike Lee versus Samuel L. Jackson. Insiders had been whispering about the conflict for years, but no one had the courage to reveal it until now. Nor was it a minor disagreement.
Or that lasted decades.
How long have you guys known each other? Wow, since 80. Wow. I was doing Soldier's Play when I met Spike. So maybe 80.
This has nothing to do with egos colliding on site or creative disagreements. No, this was power, pride, and treachery. Samuel and Spike were formerly regarded as the ideal duo for black film. Together, the two giants shaped the culture. But things became ugly somewhere along the line. A decades-long Cold War, icy staircases, and bitter, despite the efforts of Hollywood elites to minimize it, the truth always comes to light. Samuel just confirmed it now. The biggest enemy is Spike Lee. Spike Lee was more than just another director in the late 1980s. Hollywood was rocked by his one-man cultural revolution. An eager up-and-coming actor by the name of Samuel L. Jackson was smack in the thick of that wave. Sam was given early breaks by Spike, who opened the door for him. He was locked in with the iconic radio DJ Mr. Senor Love Daddy in Do the Right Thing, 1989. After first appearing in School Days, 1988. The collaboration continued after that. In Jungle Fever and Mo Better Blues, they reunited. At that point, Jackson completely stunned everyone. In addition to being strong, his portrayal of Gator, the
Apologetically bold.
First of all, Spike, so glad you're sitting down. After 18 consecutive home losses, the Knicks won tonight. I repeat, the Knicks won.
crack-addicted sibling, was eerily realistic. The Cannes Film Festival was so shocked that they made an award specifically for him. Consider that. Because Jackson's performance was so unvarnished and memorable, Cannes defied its own regulations and gave him a Best Supporting Actor award that they had not even intended to present. Since then, they have never done it again. That was the level at which Sam was functioning.
Samuel L. Jackson, where are you? 152 movie titles, 27 billion in box office. More.
When fans noticed the chemistry, they believed it was fate. Spike and Sam were envisioned as the next great pair, the Scorsese and De Niro of black cinema, but with more edginess, loudness, and unreserved audacity. The ideal squad was short-lived. By 1992, everything had completely changed. Spike was preparing for Malcolm X, the civil rights masterpiece that would come to define his career. He wanted Jackson on board, of course. He proposed that he play Baines, the prisoner who introduces Malcolm to Islam. It was an important character, a significant role. Jackson went to try out. He was spot on. He owned the part. Then there was radio silence. Rather than being excited, Spike received the news from Sam's agent. Jackson was leaving. Why? Because the lowest amount permitted by the Screen Actors Guild, scale +10, was what Spike had offered him. In essence, the performer's minimal salary. It felt insulting to a young star who had just blazed through Cannes. Jackson vehemently disagreed. And it wasn't just business to Spike. It was personal to him. To him, this had nothing to do with money. It has to do with friendship, loyalty, and respect. Spike subsequently said, "What bothered me was not that he didn't want to do the film, but that he had his agent call me. That one action."
Samuel, apparently you have recently lost your title as the highest grossing actor of all time.
Yeah, I've been displaced.
Yeah.
By
Harrison Ford, again. I displaced him, he displaced me, but hey, it's only 7.
Action shattered the link completely, and the consequences were severe. Spike Lee believed that their relationship extended beyond work. For him, respect was more important than contracts. Instead of sending an agent to conduct the chatting, he anticipated that Samuel L. Jackson would call him directly. Sam wasn't going to play that game, though, because Jackson believed the supposed bond was more like an expectation of blind allegiance. When Jackson eventually talked about the consequences years later, he didn't mince words. He acknowledged that the conversation wasn't the most pleasant. After Spike finished speaking, Sam simply laughed it off. He was irritated by the tone, though, as if simply by giving him early roles, Spike expected him to bow down and express eternal gratitude. Jackson was very clear that Spike didn't create him. They bolstered one another. Furthermore, Spike ought to have recognized how much Jackson's enthusiasm and skill enhanced those movies. Otto 8 Jackson then intensified his efforts. He exposed what was actually happening behind the scenes by calling out the financial condition. Spike was checking on Malcolm X as an actor, producer, writer, and director. He wanted the actors he needed to realize his vision to labor for peanuts. In the interim, Jackson's reaction was brutal. "You're taking 4 salaries, and you want to pay me scale? No. Actually, let me take your place and earn some actual cash in the process." That directness didn't sit well with anyone. Sam wasn't finished either. He was unambiguous. He had merited his position. Why stay with Spike if he couldn't provide him a decent wage, or even allow him to share in the back-end profits? He was no longer a struggling theatrical performer in need of a break. Jackson wasn't going to pass up the opportunity to work in Hollywood. It couldn't have come at a more bizarre time. Jackson received the call of a lifetime just as the Malcolm X controversy was escalating. "You just won an award at Cannes. For what?" his representative asked him. They actually developed a category specifically for him: Jungle Fever. The sign was that Spike was no longer necessary for him. Jackson, Willem Dafoe, and Mickey Rourke starred in White Sands instead of Spike's historical epic. Although it was audacious and dangerous, it took their careers in 2 entirely different routes. What happened next? A total of 22 years of stillness. No group roles, no public recognition, no cooperation. Spike was not in Jackson's sphere of influence, whereas he was working with Tarantino, Scorsese, and Marvel. Jackson not only stood up for Quentin, but he also clapped out at Spike when he criticized Tarantino for using the N-word in Django Unchained. The remark quickly gained popularity in Hollywood after Samuel L. Jackson retorted, "It's just another way of saying Spike needs to shut the fun up." The strain was no longer concealed. It was unmistakable, raw, and loud. In the industry, what was once discussed behind closed doors became a public secret. Spike's
We not worked together since Jungle Fever, so was it
ego was blamed by some insiders. Others blamed Jackson's refusal to participate in the game. However, the main point of contention was control. Spike demanded allegiance. Jackson called for liberty. Neither man was prepared to compromise. The irony? Jackson has frequently acknowledged that Jungle Fever, the movie that caused a stir at Cannes, actually saved his life. He had just gotten out of rehab just before filming. Even though he was detoxing and still unsteady and hardly able to function, he turned there. People believed he was truly high on set because of how genuine and unvarnished his performance was. "I didn't need makeup," Jackson even declared. The Fruit of Islam members on set attempted to forcibly remove Gator since they believed a random addict had strayed into the production. But it became so genuine. His career was not only made but revived by his part. And for that reason, the subsequent consequences was so severe. Now the same man who had given him that opportunity was attempting to confine him, give him meager compensation, and demand that he bend down in appreciation. For Jackson, it was betrayal, not just business. Then, suddenly more than 2 decades later, the ice broke. Jackson and Spike got back together in secret in 2013. At the dinner table, not in front of cameras or on a stage. The two men began to sit down together once more through their wives, who had reunited. The walls began to disintegrate slowly. Then revealed that he was redoing Old Boy. Jackson leapt at the chance. "Is it possible for me to participate?" Suddenly, they were back on a set together after being apart for over 20 years. Later, Jackson acknowledged that it felt effortless, organic, as if the former spark had never fully passed away. "He doesn't interfere with my artistic endeavors." Jackson told Playboy, "I come with whatever I come with, and it's cool. Let's be honest, though. One mediocre film and a few courteous dinners. Decades of resentment, betrayal, and silence are not erased by that." Hollywood was aware that the scars were still present. When then did Samuel L. Jackson make the decision to reveal to the world who he found intolerable? When he revealed his list of the 5 actors he absolutely despises the most, it all became clear. Furthermore, this wasn't just idle Hollywood rumors. It was about settling the matter once and for all, according to Sam. No more false grins, no more whispering. And without a doubt, Spike Lee was at the top of that list. Because ultimately this feud was never truly about the art, regardless of how many accolades they had amassed or how significant their early work was. It was about who was refusing to show respect. However, Spike was not the only target. On paper, Samuel L. Jackson and Quentin Tarantino ought to have been a perfect match in Hollywood. Some of the most famous scenes in film history, 6 partnerships, and decades of devotion. Together, they shaped an age. They weren't merely performances, like Jules' blazing sermons in Pulp Fiction, or Stephen and Django Unchained's icy menace. They were seismic events in culture, because he frequently uses or inserts such phrases into the dialogue of his characters, he has enough trouble being demonized as a racist.
Is not a fool of any sort and understands
From the start, Jackson has been the driving force behind Tarantino's movies. Tarantino once acknowledged it himself. Sam's words are poetic. Jackson was able to manage such lengthy, convoluted, and profanity-filled speeches better than anyone else. This is when the loyalty broke down, though, because that poetry began to hurt for a man who needs total control like Tarantino. Some fans started speculating that Sam might not be only performing. Perhaps he was the one who infused those iconic sentences with taste. The crazy aspect is that the fans were correct at times. Both Tarantino and Samuel L. Jackson detested that iconic "cool in the gang" phrase from Pulp Fiction. "I get mad that people think Sam came up with most of his own dialogue because I wrote Sam's dialogue," he even said in an interview. It was more than annoyance. It was pride that was hurt. For Tarantino, every word of his scripts is sacred. There are no exceptions. The purpose of actors is not to improvise. Their purpose is to fulfill his vision. However, it was heartbreaking to witness Jackson turn into the spokesperson for his company, as he was credited with the swagger and style that resonated. Although Tarantino maintained his smile in public, the tension inside the film was intensifying behind closed doors, and it was only a matter of time until it erupted. Let's fast forward to 2024. Pulp Fiction celebrates its 30th anniversary. When Tarantino and Jackson took the stage together at the TCM Classic Film Festival, fans anticipated a heartfelt reunion filled with nostalgia. Rather, the energy was unpleasant, the attitude was cold, and it was impossible to avoid the side looks. Tarantino went about his daily business of praising himself and evaluating his movies as if they were gospel. Jackson, however, wasn't going to give him the last say. What distinguishes Tarantino films from others is how much time is spent saying who you are and how you feel, he said, in a subtle but deadly jab. Jackson was essentially stating, "Quentin, it's not your camera angles. I am the one who gave those figures their iconic status." It came to light when Tarantino disparaged Marvel on a podcast, stating brazenly that
Yes, you did. Yes, you did, Brett. You tried to.
Marvel actors aren't real movie stars, referring to them as nothing more than names for franchises. A huge error. Samuel L. Jackson has been the face of Marvel's Nick Fury for almost 20 years, so he didn't take it well. He hit back live on The View, ending the discussion with the ruthless statement, "Chadwick Boseman is Black Panther." That cannot be denied. He's also a movie star. It was a clash of ideologies, and the subtext was obvious. Tarantino didn't get to erase the impact of Marvel heroes because he didn't like capes and computer-generated imagery. Tarantino worshipped cinema as a high art, while Jackson saw it as a cultural impact that transcends the film's snobs. While Sam has never needed a shiny Oscar to prove his worth, he made sure everyone knew that he'd rather rock an eye patch or swing a lightsaber than beg for approval. And you can bet that probably drives Tarantino crazy. The real dagger, however, is that Samuel L. Jackson no longer bows down to Tarantino. The power dynamic has shifted, and the actor who made Quentin's scripts famous is now publicly denouncing him as conceited, rejecting his views, and refusing to play Hollywood politics. While Quentin helped Jackson become a world-renowned actor, he also attempted to confine him to a box. And Samuel L. Jackson doesn't play boxes. The chemistry faded, the bromance broke, and Jackson simply sent Tarantino a warning shot in a city full of phony.
You're as crazy as the people on Twitter. Right. I'm not Lawrence Fishburne.
That's my fault. I know that.
Phony smiles. And if you thought the drama ended, think again. Sam claims that his long-simmering tension with Lawrence Fishburne was about respect, rather than just one role. And no one knows Samuel L. Jackson better than to remember when someone steps on his shine. Let's go back to the 1994 cult classic, Pulp Fiction, which made Jackson a household name. His portrayal as Jules Winfield, complete with the horrific Ezekiel 25:17 monologue and that unmistakable death gaze, solidified his place as one of the most recognizable actors in movie history. But here's the tangled truth that most fans are unaware of. The character wasn't even intended for him. Lawrence Fishburne was initially
I turned down Pulp Fiction.
For which role? The Sam Jackson one?
Of course.
offered the role of Jules by Quentin Tarantino, but Fishburne declined. This is the shady part. Years later, Fishburne nonchalantly revealed the truth in an interview. as if it were unimportant. I declined Pulp Fiction. I have no regrets about that. Sam Jackson became famous because of that part, and I helped make it happen. I kept out of the path, stayed out of the way, and contributed. It's one thing to turn down a role, but it's quite another to act as though you gave someone a career by walking away. Given Sam's temperament, Jackson found that remark particularly hurtful because, in his view, he didn't steal that spotlight. Rather, he earned it and owned it. To suggest that it was a hand-me-down is Hollywood arrogance at its best. In what fans today refer to as one of the most embarrassing and widely shared incidents in entertainment news, this conflict didn't remain behind the scenes. It was made public when a reporter mistakenly mistook Samuel L. Jackson for Lawrence Fishburne during a live TV interview. Sam lit up the poor reporter live on air with his famous response, "I'm not Lawrence Fishburne. We all have different appearances. Even though we are all well known in black, our appearances differ. You've been busted." Fans laughed, but the underlying meaning was evident in the video, which went viral right away. Jackson wasn't merely correcting a naive reporter. He was delivering a message. Don't ever associate him with Fishburne, and don't ever minimize the blood, sweat, and wrath he poured into Pulp Fiction. Under the sarcasm, Samuel L. Jackson was carrying a heavier burden. He was sick of being confused with a man who, in his eyes, had subtly disrespected him while feigning to uplift him. That viral moment wasn't just funny.
He was writing episode 1, said, well, I don't know, what I could do, but, I heard you like my films. I'm like, look, man, put me in one of those white suits.
It was pure frustration leaking out after years of silent tension. The line that struck Jackson the most was when Lawrence Fishburne said, "I contributed to that." To Jackson, those words weren't support. Rather, they were a backhanded slap, a hint of Hollywood elitism, as though he should be thankful for the scraps, as if Jules Winfield was some leftover role that he was fortunate to land because Fishburne passed it up. Sam doesn't like that type of shade. The worst part is that Fishburne wasn't even turned down for Pulp Fiction because he was too busy. Interview 1942 to 1946, he said that he didn't enjoy Tarantino's script and that some of the scenes annoyed him. But as soon as the film became popular and Jackson's career took off, Fishburne wanted to be associated with it. He boasted by omission, acting as though he had unintentionally made Sam famous. Insiders whispered behind the scenes that the two have never directly addressed it, never had a heart-to-heart or cleared the air, but instead engaged in a silent, cold war that has lasted for decades. Awkward shade that fans can sense even when they are in the same room, icy distance at industry events, and subtle digs in interviews. And let's face it, if you know Jackson's methods, that alone is enough to put you on his permanent hate list. When someone rejects your pivotal position and then attempts to claim some of the credit for your success, and others continue to mistake you for them in public, that's not just contempt, it's personal. The drama didn't end there, though. It would seem like the ultimate Hollywood dream to be handpicked by George Lucas to join the Star Wars universe, and at first, it was. Mace Windu, played by Samuel L. Jackson, became one of the most iconic Jedi Masters in the saga. His purple lightsaber was his personal request, and everything about him, his authority, attitude, and fierce one-liners, was distinctly Jackson. What might have been simply another background Jedi wearing a brown robe was transformed into a beloved legend by Samuel L. Jackson. The twist is that George Lucas never intended for Samuel to be a Jedi in the first place. Jackson himself acknowledged that he pleaded simply to be in Star Wars, even saying that he would be cool playing a faceless stormtrooper. Lucas casually tossed him a role that turned into Mace Windu. This meant that there was serious tension, simmering beneath the epic lightsaber duels and big-screen glory. Doesn't it seem like a happy Hollywood fantasy? False. Interview 21:49-22. The drama really exploded in Revenge of the Sith, when Daniel Logan, the young actor who played Boba Fett, revealed years later that the original plan was for Boba Fett to kill Mace Windu instead of Palpatine killing him. It was a perfect revenge arc, with Jango's son taking down the Jedi who killed him to exact revenge on his father. It was storyboarded, discussed, and was happening, until Samuel L. Jackson allegedly shut it down. Logan claims that Jackson personally told George Lucas, "I don't think some punk kid should be able to kill a Jedi Council member." Yes, Jackson described him as a punk kid. And with that, the entire plot was discarded. Logan was left behind, waited a year for the call to return, and it never did. His career momentum stagnated, and his chance for long-term Star Wars glory was gone. In the meantime, Jackson's Mace Windu got to fight Palpatine in a high-profile battle. I came to the realization that he moves slowly. He was a very enigmatic character, but you have to recreate him because he isn't yet that old bounty hunter. He is this little infamous boy who is following his father around the galaxy. Let's face it, this is Star Wars, a universe that actually brought Darth Maul back after he was cut in half. They can bring anyone back to life, so why wasn't Boba Fett avenging his father? Samuel L. Jackson didn't want his character to end that way. Whatever the reason, it cost Daniel Logan his breakthrough moment, and possibly his career. The worst part is that Jackson has never acknowledged it, apologized. Instead, he has remained silent about it. Logan continues to discuss it at conventions, implying that Jackson's one behind-the-scenes power play destroyed his entire Hollywood future. Some fans claim it was ego, while others claim he was simply defending the image of his Jedi. Samuel L. Jackson put George Lucas on his list because, to him, it wasn't really about lightsabers or even Mace Windu's role, but rather about how the game is played in back rooms, how power is flexed to rewrite stories, and how one man can decide he's too big to lose while someone else gets left in the dust. It's the kind of Hollywood story that never gets told aloud. One actor's legacy is protected, while another's career is subtly ruined. The next name on his list is one that shocked everyone. When two Hollywood titans, both with decades-long careers, and collaborations with such luminaries as Tarantino and Spielberg, managed to go more than 30 years without ever sharing the screen. That's not a coincidence. That's not scheduling. That's a choice. If you think that sounds messy, buckle up. Jackson was just warming up. Although they may smile for the cameras, Samuel L. Jackson and Denzel Washington have one of Hollywood's most intriguing rivalries behind the scenes. While there is respect in public, there has been rivalry for years behind the scenes. These two men are among the few black actors in history to regularly headline box office hits worth $100 million or more, which is uncommon and causes tension. When Jackson wanted to play the part of Alonzo Harris, the corrupt, complicated cop, at the center of the movie, the role went to Denzel Washington, whose performance not only won him his second Oscar, but also dominated the box office, sending a strong message that Denzel Washington was still Hollywood's king when it came to serious dramatic roles. This brought the rivalry into sharp relief in 2001 with the casting of Training Day. Instead of pursuing him directly, Jackson changed course and established his empire in the realm of blockbusters, such as Marvel, Star Wars, and other huge franchises that Denzel never touched. His films have made over $27 billion worldwide, making him the highest-grossing actor in movie history. Jackson didn't pursue Oscars. Instead, he built an empire. The real twist is that Denzel Washington and Samuel L. Jackson represent two very different types of greatness. Jackson became the global powerhouse, dominating every franchise he touched, while Denzel is the classic actor's actor, establishing his career on heavy, award-winning performances. Beneath the surface, this difference has fueled a rivalry that Hollywood never wanted to acknowledge but could never conceal. Denzel Washington is a well-known actor who immerses himself in his roles to the point where viewers forget they are watching him. He is a meticulous, methodical, and deadly serious craftsman who went beyond acting to start his own production. company manned Lane Entertainment, which allowed him to create the kinds of stories he wanted to tell. Characters like Nick Fury and Mace Wu aren't just roles, they're pop culture icons. Samuel L. Jackson played the game entirely differently, creating a bold, distinctive persona, and making it his brand instead of blending in. His Marvel contract? Legendary. It was one of the most actor-friendly agreements in the history of the franchise. Jackson demonstrated that blockbusters weren't just paycheck gigs, but could be both creatively fulfilling and incredibly profitable. The unsettling reality is that studios don't view them as a dream pair. Rather, they see them as a nightmare because their audiences, instincts, and styles are so different. If Denzel symbolizes the purity of the craft, Jackson represents the power of the brand. Two very different empires and philosophies changed Hollywood forever, but in completely different ways. Since their careers are practically built to avoid overlap, Denzel and Jackson have managed to dominate for decades without ever sharing the screen. They are not enemies or friends. Rather, they are two kings holding court in separate kingdoms, each untouchable in his own lane. Denzel avoids CGI-heavy green screen spectacles, while Jackson thrives in them. Jackson doesn't pursue the Oscar-bait dramas that Denzel owns. After decades of Hollywood politics, backroom betrayals, and artificial grins, Samuel L. Jackson is finally speaking out loud, unfiltered and genuine, and the fallout is shaking Hollywood. So there you have it. He's dropping bombs, not just names. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and remember to hit the bell, like, subscribe, and share this video so you don't miss the next one. Until then, see you on the next video. Did Samuel have the right idea to call out these names, or did he just stir up drama that should have remained buried?